Ryan's Patriots suffered a tough loss against their division rival in Week 12, but they get to now take on our father's team, the Indianapolis Colts. We got an in-house Tracy rivalry this week. You're not going to miss Ryan's preview for this game. And, Dad, you can suck it. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan. I'm the favorite child. We're going to break down this Week 13 matchup here between the Indianapolis Colts and New England Patriots. But before I do that, we do have a goal of getting to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think will win this game and why. So funny story here for everybody. I was watching this game with my brother, and I was petting his dog, Rue. And Ryan was having a tough time, I will say. And so I said, hey, Rue, go give your dad a hug. And so Rue started to walk over. And as soon as she started to do that, Ryan screamed at the TV, are you effing kidding me? And Rue kind of looked back at me with this, huh?
That's a little dramatic.
No, that's not true. That's exactly how. Maybe
that's not what I said at all.
Oh, you definitely swore.
No, I said
I did the Clip Notes version of what you said.
They threw a holding flag.
You're ruining the point of my story about how Rue looked back at me with his sad dog eyes and ears down, tails between her legs, and to be like,
but your story is false.
No, that's not true at all. It was hysterical. It was my point of view. Yeah. It was hysterical watching you watch the Patriots play today because, admittedly, from an outsider's point of view, it was just a horrible game. And so I know you have a lot of thoughts on the Patriots play. So I think I'll just kind of, as you ruined my hilarious story to start this video.
Well, I'll tell you the real thing that happened was they threw a holding call on Fedarian Lowe, and then it was a BS holding call. He actually executed a perfect, I think it's called a trap technique. For the X's and O's guys, leave a comment down below. But he was getting bull rushed, so he just swiped the guy's arms out, and they called a holding because the guy fell down, and it looked like he just threw him to the ground. But in reality, he just took his balance out. But then they wouldn't show the replay until like after 2 plays, they went back to the holding call and showed it again. So, but they wouldn't show it at first, and that was frustrating because replay they seem to show everything that supports the referee's cases, and they like refuse to show stuff that does not support the referee's cases.
Well,
so,
moral of the story,
we're talking about the Colts Patriots game.
Wait, the moral of the story is your dog was scared of you.
Yeah,
that's how bad the Patriots scared your dog. That's how bad.
Yeah. That's the moral of the story. But I love my dog, and I do not abuse my dog for anybody who's going to call animal control. Yeah. And so kind of moving on to this game and just looking at the teams at hand, both coming off losses. I think you look like the Patriots loss. The thing that to me was just so frustrating was I remember going back to training camp practices and obviously not going, but reading the reports. And there was the Eagles-Patriots joint practices. And they ran 44. It was like 44 passing plays. 27 of them ended up in sacks or penalties. And it was just like, okay, so over half of what this offense was trying to do throwing the football was a complete and utter disaster. And it just feels like we've made no progress. And I think that's a reflection of 2 things. One, I think it's poor coaching. I think that this coaching staff has so much to be held accountable for in just the lack of development of other players besides Drake Maye, who honestly at this point is, I feel like, performing off of soul talent alone. And I want to give AVP a little bit of credit. I think he's done a good job kind of developing Drake Maye specifically. But outside of him having the basics understandings of this offense, he's operating on solely talent. This offensive structure gives him very little support in the other issue that I have a big gripe with, and that's just the personnel on this team is absolutely atrocious. They came into the season with no starting caliber tackles at all. Fedarian Lowe was the best that they could do at left tackle at the beginning of the year. Like that was their plan, and that is just criminal in my opinion. And you look at this receiver room. Demario Douglas has been having a pretty good year for a second-year 6th-round pick. Kayshon Boutte, I think, while he didn't make an appearance in that Dolphins game, really, he also for a second-year 6th-round pick has been more than what you would expect. But outside of that, these receivers have just been no help whatsoever to this offense, and have really just in a lot of ways, Jalen Polk has more penalties than catches since October, and so he's just doing more harm than good at this point. And so it's really frustrating to just sit here and watch this team just continually beat themselves week in and week out. And I personally feel like there should be significant changes to this coaching staff going forward. Now, to kind of get to the Colts had over 50 yards of offense erased by penalties against the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. They are making a lot of the same mistakes that the Patriots are. Maybe not to quite that high of a percentage, but they're also shooting themselves in the foot. Some of that is, I feel like they've switched back and forth between quarterbacks now. Some of that is just a continuity problem, I feel like. And Anthony Richardson, he was 11 for 27. This offense just isn't efficient enough for them to be effective at a high level. Because I think you look at he had 11 completions for like 176 yards or something crazy like that.
He had it's 11 for 28, 172 yards. He had 10 carries for 61 yards. And to your penalties point, Colts had 10 penalties for 75 yards.
Yeah, and so it's just very similar things, except I do actually like Shane Steichen. I feel like his receivers and like his route concepts, like they get good route spacing, they have good weapons. I just don't know if Anthony Richardson is efficient and accurate enough to execute those route concepts on a consistent basis. Because 2 weeks ago against the Jets, he was able to do that. I think he was 20 for 30 for a little over 250 yards. So like had a good game there, and I think that's exactly what you want. It's just going to be really interesting because this game is not going to come down to who has the most talent on their roster. Because if it did, the Colts would definitely win. I think it's going to come down to who can minimize their mistakes the most. And I think that's going to be the really interesting concept or interesting factor in this game is these are two of the most mistake-prone teams in the NFL.
Yeah, they're up there. I would think too. So I know if you just look at Anthony Richardson's stat line, it's not impressive at all. If you just look at it like without the grand scheme of things, and like his rating, he had a 48.3 QBR, 60.4 rating. But some of those, but then I still saw the very impressive plays though. That got called back for holding or that guy's dropped, and they're still looking at 2025 into the future because the Colts are still a fringe playoff team. Somehow they're ninth overall right now. They're 2 games back from Denver. They still have a bye, and so does Denver as well. But they're a half game back from Miami, who's the 8th overall team right now in the AFC. But they do have the weapons. I mean, you go look if Richardson can get it together. Then they have Josh Downs, who did get hurt as well, so I have to monitor his status going into this game. I hope he's okay because he's a fun guy to watch. Michael Pittman's a solid receiver, not the best receiver in the league, but he's a solid 1A, 1B receiver.
He's a pretty consistent 1,000-yard guy.
Yeah. A.D. Mitchell has a lot had a lot of things to like. Alec Pierce has been playing well also. The biggest thing for me with this Colts team, and really honestly both teams, and one area that I think the Patriots clearly have over the Colts, the trenches as a whole is a big concern for both teams. Patriots defensive line actually isn't atrocious. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's better. Christian Barmore has been back the last couple of weeks, and it has seemed to be better. Yeah. They were a really bad run defense there for a while. They don't get any pressure at all in the quarterback.
Yeah. I think what this game is going to come down to is just can New England stop the explosive plays from Anthony Richardson and this Colts offense? And so I think Drake Maye can lead some good drives just because I think this Colts defense just isn't that particularly great. Even though they did only hold the Detroit Lions team to just 24 points, which is actually kind of impressive in and of itself. But then at the same time, though, too, are the Patriots going to give? Are the Colts going to go three and out several times against the Patriots defense? Absolutely. Is it possible though that they could also have 2-3 play drives that ended in a touchdown because it's like 20-yard chunks at a time before they finally end up in the end zone? I think that's like equally as much of a possibility. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Is like, do you see that game playing out as well, where Drake Maye maybe can methodically kind of just power his way down the field, while the Colts are going to be more of these explosive drives, explosive plays.
So to me, it all depends on if the Colts can come in and stop the run. They did a decent job of that against the Lions today. And I say decent, I put that in perspective of the Colts defense not being that great.
Well, and also too decent, only 137 yards given up by Detroit.
Yeah.
And that's typically that's less than average to what the Lions
normally do. And so if they have fixed some of those issues, I think it's going to be another long day for New England. The other thing too, this Colts pass rush is not very good. So I do feel like if they can keep Drake Maye upright in the pocket and establish a running game, I do agree with you. I think they can methodically kind of move the ball down the field. And this could be a nice bounce back game for Drake Maye. The fits that the Patriots have been having on defense come from two things. One, the just teams that can methodically move the football, like the Dolphins, who can also hit you with the explosive plays. But the Dolphins, I felt like they just moved down the field in that second and third quarter in just 10 to 15-yard chunks, just underneath Jonnu Smith. He got 8 yards, and then Jalen Waddle got another 15. And then, Devon A-Chain got a screen pass. He scored an 18-yard touchdown. That to me was the most frustrating thing. They actually have been decent against defending against true explosive plays when offenses haven't been able to threaten them with much else. And I do think with Christian Barmore back in, he will be playing a much heavier role on that defensive front. This defensive line has played decently well in the last couple of weeks with him back in. I know, I think Kyron Williams had a decent day against them, but nobody else did against the Rams. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup where if the Patriots can stifle these plays, I don't think Anthony Richardson will be quite good enough to really hurt them and nickel and dime them down the field.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. No, it's going to be a fascinating game. It's going to be fun watching you and Dad watch it together because you all are very similar in that aspect. Very passionate about your sports team.
That's where I get it from. Yeah,
but I know. Yeah, especially too when you feel horrible calls have been made, and so kind of coming into this game here, Ryan. I want to throw it over to you. Who do you think is going to come out victorious?
I don't know if I think this is who's going to come out victorious, but I almost feel obligated to pick them, and that is the Patriots. I just feel like they'll be at home. Drake Maye's last home performance was 58 minutes of therapy, I guess, for Patriots fans. The last 2 minutes, not so much. Last 2 minutes was why we needed the 58 minutes of therapy. But it was just a really good in-structured performance where he had a few out-of-structure plays that really boosted this offense up. And if it wasn't for a late interception that he kind of had to force on a 3rd and 13, I think it would have been a really nice performance for him. Also, I think you go look at that performance. They give up 28 points to Matthew Stafford in that offense. I don't think that they will go into this game plan and be like, we're going to play single high safety and we're going to bring an extra guy down in the box and we're going to man up with these receivers. I feel like if any game is the game to play a shell, like a cover 2 shell, which they have been doing a lot this season, this is the game. Prevent the big play, make them nickel and dime you down the field. And you can play bend, don't break in the red zone and hold them to field goals and whatnot. But I do think New England has a decent chance to come out ahead in this one. I think the Colts probably have better paths to win personally, but in a family matchup, I feel like I have to take the Patriots.
Well, yeah, and as the favorite son, I have to go with father here. And so, no, I just say that I just think playmaking capability wise, now Drake Maye maybe can top it. Is enough playmaking capabilities just for the Patriots alone. But I just look at everything though, and yes, Christian Barmore is back, but I still think Jonathan Taylor and this Colts running game can run against you guys. I think Anthony Richardson is just going to be also such a freak athlete as well, where that's going to be tough for you all to try and stop. Then you're still going to have to throw to Michael Pittman. It's going to have Alec Pierce, A.D. Mitchell as well. Going to have to check in on Josh Downs, make sure that he is doing okay. It seemed like it was a pretty tough hit as well. So I have to monitor that throughout the week. But because if Downs doesn't go, that's a big, because what you're talking about, nickel, like make sure they try and nickel and dime you down the field. Downs is that guy for them, like where he's that reliable piece underneath. And so if he's unable to go, that's going to be interesting to see how the Colts can also replicate that as well. But I think just in general, I think the Colts are just a slightly better team than you are.
I agree. I totally agree. I feel obligated to pick my team. I don't necessarily want to.
Go ahead. I like it. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts in this one.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up. This is our first disagreement of the week. So go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Indianapolis Colts? Will it be the New England Patriots? And that we'll see you guys next time.